All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BETONLINE. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets as they lost last night or yesterday in what was a pretty ugly loss by the end of it. During the game, it was really good. During the game, it felt like the Nuggets we're going to stay attached. We're going to push for a win at the end. It was a very competitive game against one of the best teams, if not the best team in the entire NBA. Daylight savings time yesterday, early starts. You can give all of the excuses you want, but Denver started off this game really well, and it felt like they had an opportunity. And then Aaron Gordon got hurt, and then Nikola Jokic fell on his elbow, and then everything just kind of spiraled from there. It felt like they were hanging on by a thread for much of the second and third quarter, and ultimately they let go of the rope in that fourth, which not really a surprise to me, I'll say. We'll get into it all. We'll talk about the different layers of this one. We'll talk about what's going on and how the Nuggets can bounce back in the game tonight. Spoiler alert, I don't really think that they will, but I mean, look, they've surprised me before. They've surprised Nuggets fans before. They're really good on the second night of back-to-backs, and there is something to be said for that. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about it all, but before we do, this podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by the good folks over at BetOnline, your number one source for everything online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, whether you're betting on NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, or any other sport that pops up, BetOnline has you covered with a whole bunch of lots of stats and odds and props and everything that could help tickle your fancy. Make sure to check it out. BetOnline, the game starts here. Once again, I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you can. Would really, really appreciate it. First and foremost, let's get into what happened. Denver started that game 14-3. They were rolling. The defense was great. OKC missing a couple shots, to be clear. But Denver's defense was very connected. The starters started off very well. As you can tell from Aaron Gordon's plus-minus, he was +4 in the 7 minutes that he played. Denver started at 14-3, and then they let a run happen, and it was 16-12 when he exited. And then when Russell Westbrook came in, when Zeke Naji came in for him, and Denver started to get into the flow of their game, yeah, just an unfortunate reality for Denver that they sort of let go of the rope. And once you started bringing in some of the reserves, once you started kind of mixing and matching different lineups, that you saw the advantage that OKC had, and you saw the disadvantages that the Nuggets had. Going by the box score, it's not a surprise to me that Isaiah Hartenstein was only a +2 in 31 minutes. It's not a surprise that Chet Holmgren was +32 in 26 minutes. He was making a great impact, but when he was not fouling, when he was running the floor, when he was blocking shots, when he was deterring shots at the rim for the Nuggets, that's where the game really started to flip, in my opinion. And as long as Chet Holmgren was on the floor for OKC, they were going to have an advantage because the Nuggets, they just didn't have the combination of size and speed that you need to in order to match up with this OKC team. And Aaron Gordon is a massive part of that. He's their most versatile player, in my opinion. He's the defender that they need. He's the offensive player that they need. He's a scorer. He's a shooter. He's a playmaker. He's somebody that they can trust in a whole bunch of these different situations. And it just felt like not having him out there was a big deal. Marcel Zero asks, any news on AG? No, I haven't been around there. I got to imagine that guys like Bennett Durando and Vinny Benedetto, who did make the trip, they are probably on the job as we speak right now, trying to figure out whether he's going to play. Um, the way that this keeps happening, I sort of doubt that he plays in, frankly, this game or any of the games coming up, because they're going to try to be as cautious as they can with him. They do not want to rush him back before he's ready. And it just sucks because he's very clearly bothered by all of the, like, everything that has happened, and both on and off the floor, and just a lot of things that have been going on and kind of keeping him down. But the Nuggets need him. And it's pretty clear that when he left the floor, Denver's other answers, whether it was going small with Michael Porter at the 4 and then Murray, Russ, Christian Brown, that was too small. Especially in this matchup, especially when Chet Holmgren was out there and you're playing two bigs. Like, it was very clear at the beginning of that third quarter, Denver was getting rolled when Russ was on the floor in those minutes. And that's just, like, it's hard to handle that. And it's not Russ's fault. Like, that shouldn't be a position where he has to start and be put in there. Like, it really should have been Peyton Watson or Zeke Naji. But neither of those guys played well. Neither of those guys did a very good job when they were asked to play anyway. But those would be the right size matchups for a guy like Chet Holmgren. For, like, if Denver decided, hey, we're going to, like, go with Deron Holmes, like, would anybody have been surprised at that point? No. But the fact is that they don't have those options available to them. And as a result, like, they're playing these 8-9-man rotations, and it's really 8.5 or 8 if you drop it down to half minutes for both Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson, because those guys got hurt. Denver's playing really small. They have Jalen Pickett out there. They played several lineups where Pickett, Russ, and Murray were on the floor at the same time. And if not 3 of those guys, then at least 2 of them. And I thought that, like, individually, you can point to good things that each of those guys did. Like, Russell Westbrook had 11 rebounds, 5 assists. Jalen Pickett made 3 shots out of 8. Only 1 of 4 from 3, but I think at least one of those was in garbage time. One of those misses. So I think that there are elements that you can see with each of the players. I thought Zeke Naji's defense on SGA, pretty good. But in general, the thing that you notice with OKC is that beyond their main stars, and Shea had a pretty good game. I won't say it was a great game because he shot 15 of 32. He's way more capable of going like 19 of 32, 20 of 32, 6 of 11 from 3, and then he could have put up 50. He didn't do that. He was merely good. But it was him, it was Chet, Jalen Williams, a big J-Dub had a 26, 9, and 8. He was great in this game and making all the shots that he needed to make. Isaiah Hartenstein was functional in this game. I won't say he was great. Lou Dort was good defensively, but didn't make a whole bunch of shots. He was fine. Although he made enough. It was 6 points on 2 of 8 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. So, like, they were fine. OKC had 14 blocks in this game. Chet had 4. SGA had 3. J-Dub and Lou Dort each had 1. Cason Wallace had 3 off the bench as a guard. And then Alex Caruso had 2 off the bench as a guard. And that's where you get into all of the versatility, because they had Jalen Williams, big Jalen Williams, their backup big, went 3 of 5 from 3. He just came off of a game where he had a triple-double. Kenrich Williams didn't even really play, but he played at the beginning of the second quarter and was fine. Didn't do anything special. Caruso's great defensively. Isaiah Joe's a guy that they can trust in spacing situations. Aaron Wiggins is a guy that went for 30 in the last game. And then Cason Wallace is a versatile defensive guard who didn't really play well in this last one. But Denver's just out of their, like they're not even in the same area code as this OKC team when it comes to depth. And when you're consistently trying to make up the gap in depth and resilience with those bridge minutes, then with your starters, then, like, your starters just has too much pressure on them. And, like, Jokic, in that case, it always will have too much pressure on him. 24, 13, and 9 with 1 steal and 3 blocks for Jokic, but he shot 10 of 23, which just wasn't good enough. And it's unfortunate because like dropping like the people's elbow onto the floor, that hurt. Like Denver couldn't survive that. They couldn't survive the combination of that and Aaron Gordon going down because they don't have the depth. They don't have the resiliency and the extra answers behind those guys in the way that the Thunder do. That's why the Thunder are 53 and 11 for what it's worth. Like they are just so resilient because of all the answers that they can put together, because they're always in a position where those guys are making up for each other. Like if one guy, like if Alex Caruso isn't shooting well, good thing that Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins probably are. If Isaiah Joe is like getting hunted defensively, let's just put out Kenrich Williams and see what he can do. That's the thing about OKC is they always have answers. They always have versatility. And Denver just didn't have that when you kind of look at their bench. And the guy who's playing the third most minutes in this one is Jalen Pickett. On Locked On last night, I made sure to mention that Peyton Watson needs to play regardless of how like not great he is. And they need him ready for these matchups. They just do. They are not going to win a championship unless Peyton Watson is good enough to play, unless he's good enough to make an impact, because they just do not have enough talent. Like that's what it comes down to especially in matchups like this, because there are going to be times where Russell Westbrook gets played off the floor. There's going to be times where, like, and Christian Brown, I thought made up for it yesterday, but like Christian couldn't really guard SGA that comfortably. They're going to need another guy who can guard him. They're going to need another guy who can step up and handle that. When Jamal Murray doesn't play well, he goes 6 of 17 and doesn't really play great defensively in the second half. I thought he was great defensively in the first half, but second half I thought it was an issue. When you're in that situation and you need other guys to step up and share the burden, Denver just doesn't really have that. All of their burden is placed on the starters at this point, and Russell Westbrook, I guess. And so when you're in that situation, there just is no margin for error. And that's the thing that people keep coming back to that I've talked about before with this matchup. Not just this one, but in general. Like Denver just doesn't have a lot of margins. And they're going to have to figure out how that they can solve it. When we come back, we are going to chat about SGA versus Jokic in that MVP battle. And we will go over this matchup tonight in the third segment. We will be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Are you interested in a mortgage loan but are self-employed? SCL Mortgage specializes in loans for the self-employed. Contact our friends at SCL Mortgage. Call 303-790-2222 or visit myspecialmortgage.com. Again, that's 303-790-2222. Make sure that if you talk to SCL Mortgage, that you let them know that you came from Mile High Sports. All right. Jokic versus SGA. It was the headliner coming in. In addition, you had 1 versus 2 in the West. Jokic and the Nuggets are now down to third in the Western Conference. And I think that we are now starting to see the MVP race shift once again. I have no doubt that the odds really shifted in SGA's favor. I haven't checked them specifically, but like after this particular game, I think we will know pretty definitively who's going to win the award. Jokic didn't play well overall in this last game. 24, 13, and 9 is like ho-hum numbers in comparison to the 30, 20, 20 that he just put up. And when your bar is 30, 20, 20, when you establish that as how successful you usually are, everybody's going to be holding you to that standard. It's not fair. It's not like his standard, I think, is higher than just about anybody else in the modern NBA. LeBron's standard was about as high as it could possibly get, and he was like putting up 10 of 23 relatively consistently. Like there's plenty of opportunities for you to go back and look at that in history. But the problem for Jokic, when he landed on that elbow, clearly the shooting wasn't right. He went 2 of 6 from the free throw line, 2 of 10 from the 3-point line. And if you just look at the 2-point shooting, he was 8 of 15. Not great. Like, again, it could be better. But you see that I don't think that OKC really bothered him to the degree that others are going to argue about. Like, he was missing shots. He was missing open jumpers. Like, these are wide open standstill jumpers off of the pick and pop with Murray, with other guys. And he's just going to have to make those shots. And if the elbow was really what affected that, then yeah, I don't think that that's going to be a long-term storyline. It looked like it was a stinger. Hopefully it's nothing more than that. I wonder if Jokic comes out with a sleeve tonight, if he's going to play. There's also a possibility that he rests. There's also a possibility that he and Aaron Gordon, like, neither of them play. And Denver just decides to kind of throw this next OKC game in the toilet, where, like, I don't think they're going to be getting a whole bunch of great opportunities to win in this one. So maybe that is the right call. I'm curious to see what the Nuggets do to help out Jokic in this one. I thought that the Jokic's defense in the first half, especially in the competitive portion of this game, was good enough. As they transitioned more and more to that zone, they played a 1-2-2 zone with guys like Zeke Naji and Peyton Watson at the top of the key. It wasn't actually mostly Peyton Watson. It was like Russ at times. It was Jalen Pickett up there at times. And they handled that in the third quarter reasonably well. Fourth quarter didn't go that well. They're trying to keep Jokic out of actions. They're trying to keep SGA out of consistent pick and rolls, and I understand why they did it. But I think it kind of took them out of their rhythm a little bit. And Jokic was doing just fine for the most part in these pick and roll coverages, where he's hedging out a little bit. He's at the level. He's trying to get SGA to give up the ball. And as long as Denver's rotating on the weak side, they should be okay. But yeah, Denver I thought was good enough defensively until the fourth quarter. It was 86 points that they'd given up in the first three quarters. With the way that the pace was up until that point, that was fine. It wasn't great, but Denver was scoring reasonably at that point, at that place as well. So the problem was that OKC just kind of separated in that fourth. Jokic started that fourth quarter. He played like the first 3 minutes or so, and that's how much you know that Malone and the Nuggets cared about this one. They really wanted to get this one. I don't think we're going to see the similar stats pattern and rotation pattern in this next game. I just can't imagine, because there's no way Jokic is just going to play like, and it was effectively 23 straight minutes, I think, that he played from the mid-second to the third into the early fourth. I just don't think that's ultimately going to happen. But yeah, Jokic didn't handle it, and that's not hit. Like, look, you fall on the ground, you hurt your elbow, trying to shoot through it a little bit like he did in that third quarter. He didn't shoot at all in the second quarter, and when he did, he was extremely short on his shots. I think that, like, he just got a little bit bothered with it. The hope is that he kind of figures it out in this next game and that it's not a long-term issue. As for how Denver handled SGA, I'm going to stay pretty firm on this. 40 points on 32 shots is fine. If Denver's going to give that up, so be it. Like, it's a lot of points, don't get me wrong. But if you're going to do that, then the most important thing that the Nuggets can do around that is to guard everybody else pretty closely. It's to not also give up 26, 9, and 8, to Jalen Williams and on 7 of 14, 2 of 4 from 3, and 10 of 11 from the line. You can't also give up 6 of 10 to Chet Holmgren and 5 of 6 to Isaiah Hartenstein. If you give up 2 of 8 to Lou Dort, that's fine. But big Jalen Williams, 3 of 5 from 3, nope. Alex Caruso hits a 3, Isaiah Joe hits a 3, Cason Wallace hits a 3. You got to cut off the water somewhere. And Denver just didn't ultimately cut off the water in enough places. The other thing that they continue to avoid doing that they struggle to do is force turnovers. OKC is so good at controlling the ball. They only turned the ball over 5 times for 9 points off of those turnovers. Denver turned the ball over just 7 times. Think about how many turnover issues the Nuggets have had. The problem is that they gave up 16 points off of those 7 turnovers, which is just like, that's a tougher margin than 5 for 9 points. And when you combine in the fact that Denver went 11 of 20 from the free throw line and OKC went 22 of 25, like the margins just build up right there. That's 11 points off of a free throw differential and 9 points off of the turnover differential. That's 20 in a 24-point game right there. And that has nothing, in my opinion, nothing to do with OKC and all to do with Denver and how they handle OKC's pressure. So this is where you're going to prove whether you're a title contender or not. It's not just about shot making. I thought that Denver made enough shots. Other than Murray, I thought that he really struggled there. 1 of 5 from 3, 6 of 17 from the line. Russell Westbrook also struggled, but like, look, I think that Jokic will get back to that. I think that Murray will get back to that. Like, most of the jumpers that he missed were just wide open, like shots that he usually makes. Did he miss them because he was so rattled? I don't think so. Like, I can't imagine. Maybe he was tired, daylight savings time with UFC the night before. Like, who knows? But Denver has an opportunity to bounce back here, and if they give SGA the same kind of treatment and he goes for 40 points on 32 shots, and then Jokic plays a little bit better, Denver's in it, but only as long as everybody else kind of holds up their end of the bargain and does a little bit better with the margin battles. Like, that's controlling the free throw margin, controlling the turnover margin, making sure to hustle up. And I think Michael Malone made sure to mention 50-50 balls in a post-game presser, things like that. Now, Denver did get 14 offensive rebounds compared to OKC's 10. So they are capable of making some of those things happen. Shout out to Russell Westbrook, by the way, with 7 offensive rebounds. Tremendous number. Like, that's crazy. So whatever it is, like, Denver's just going to have to find answers. And it can't just be with the top 6 guys that they have or whatever, with the starters and Russ. Peyton Watson's got to play. Zeke's got to play. Jalen Pickett maybe has to play. And who knows? Tap in with Vlatko Čančar. Let's see if the OKC stopper can get back out there. We'll find out. I'm curious to see what they decide to do with the rotation tonight, given those issues. Okay. Let's take another break. When we come back, we will wrap things up with just a quick little preview tonight. And we'll wrap up with some of this MVP conversation as well. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I have strong feelings, of course, about Denver's place as a title contender. People that listen to the show know how I feel about Denver. I've been feeling about them being tier 2 or so. But like, they still have the capability to beat a tier 1 team. I just don't think that they're talented enough overall, consistent enough overall, and locked in enough as a team, frankly, to really stay that course on a consistent basis for 4 playoff rounds. And that's where I have some issues with it. They could continue to prove me wrong, but it's games like this where you see them let go of the rope. Um, where you see them let go of the rope and you just like it's unfortunate at this point because I think everybody can see and sense the difference between 2023 and 2025. And I don't think enough people sense the difference in 2024. Like I didn't sense it fully, but I just had a bad feeling. 2025, you can see the difference just in terms of how they are acting, how they are feeling, the teams that are around them, things of that nature. Denver just doesn't have the same level of like intensity about them, nor do they have the same level of competitiveness against these top level teams. Denver in that year was fantastic. They were great that year in terms of figuring out how to match up with some of these top level teams. Now, like against the top 4 teams in the West around Denver, so I'm including Houston in that, even though they're 5th, and the top 4 teams in the East, they are 3-12. Just that's what they are. You can explain away half of those games based off of injuries, based off of circumstance, based off of whatever. The fact is that they're 3-12, and whenever you say that number out loud, it doesn't exactly give you a lot of hope because you have to play if you're going to win a championship, you likely have to play 3 playoff rounds against top 4 teams in each conference. Like if you're in the top 4, second round of the playoffs, you have to play, let's say, the third best team. Let's say you're the 2 seed. You play the 7th seed in the first round, then you play the 3rd seed in the second round, then you play the 1st seed, likely in the Western Conference Finals, and then you play probably one of the other top 4 seeds in the other conference. That's a lot. That's a lot of games against elite talent. And Denver just has not shown. They just haven't shown that they can do it. So I would love to be proven wrong, man. There's nothing more that I would love to be proven wrong about, but I just don't think I will be. So we'll talk about it more. But hey, let's get into tonight. Actually, before we do that, MVP. I hope that Nuggets fans don't get too tied up with the MVP conversation to like just not appreciate that these are 2 really good players going at it. SGA, Jokic. Yes, SGA jumps into the Nuggets and tries to fall down and tries to bait certain calls on a consistent basis. I can say that in this show. I cannot say that when I'm talking to Matt, unfortunately. Yeah, it's unfortunate that SGA kind of does that. But he's also extremely talented and clearly, like, as a high-level shot maker, somebody who's going to be a future of this league kind of guy as he continues to age, as the team continues to get better. And OKC is going to be in that picture for a long, long time, I think. So we'll see where SGA continues to go. But Jokic, if he were to make the finals and win a finals, then you've got 3 MVPs and 2 finals MVPs. That's an infallible resume at that point. And so I think that's where a lot of Nuggets fans would feel a lot stronger in terms of because 4 regular season MVPs is a little bit different, I think, than 3 regular season MVPs and 2 finals MVPs. So I hope Nuggets fans continue to turn the page on this. The MVP is just not that important as much as a lot of people want to tell you that it is, and a lot of people want to feel that it is, and you want to be you want your guy to be as credited as much as possible, given that he's putting up one of the craziest offensive seasons that we've ever seen. I understand that, but you also see games like this, and any traditional MVP argument, when you see games like this being played as a media member, not a fan, a media member, okay, SGA's role on his team is more impactful because it is more present of the story of this season than what Jokic's role is. Because I think a lot of people are going to think that as awesome as Jokic is, as great as he is, it's why you don't always bet. Like it's why you don't always vote the best player like in the world to be the MVP. Because SGA's performance so far this season, it does kind of feel more impactful for what is going to happen in the playoffs or what is going to happen for how this season has been defined because the Thunder are so good when he's out there. This is not a knock on Jokic. He's clearly the best player in the world. But in terms of a traditional MVP argument, I think it goes to SGA. Now, that could change if Denver wins tonight. If Denver wins tonight and you really start to kind of have to redefine some of those things, you're kind of back to where you were. And if the Nuggets are able to make it happen, that would be very, very fascinating because, like, look, I don't think Jokic was that bothered by the Thunder in this last game. I think he was bothered by an elbow injury. And so if that's the case, if he can put together, like I remember the second game that he played against the OKC Thunder. Let me just pull up the box score here real quick. He wasn't tremendously efficient, Jokic. 9 of 20 from the field, 4 of 6 from the line. But he was 23 points, 20 rebounds, 16 assists. He is capable of doing that again. Denver as a team is capable of doing that again. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. But like the way that Denver does that, SGA had 8 turnovers that game. OKC had 122 points. Denver had 124. They need to continue to score. And the way that they did that in that game, Michael Porter had 6 threes. Christian Brown went 4 of 8. Russell Westbrook went 3 of 4. Julian Strawther only went 1 of 7, but he made some clutch plays down the stretch of that game. I think that the only way the Nuggets are going to be able to compete with OKC is their offense is going to have to be on point. And that means Jamal Murray, time to get going, man. Like time to get going in this particular one. If like the Nuggets are just not going to be successful in this matchup unless Jamal Murray is going off. Michael Porter played really well offensively in this last game on yesterday. Christian Brown, I thought, played pretty well. Jamal Murray's got to play well. And if he can play well, then Jokic, I think the assists will get racked up. He's probably going to get like 12 to 14. And Denver then has a chance at that point. It'll feel a little bit different. So I don't expect that to happen. I expect it to go the other direction. I expect Denver to play pretty poorly in this one and for the Nuggets to kind of let go of the rope a little bit. And it's going to probably not be fun. And Nuggets fans, like, obviously I'm the one that's delivering that news because I'm me. I am who I am. But I hope that Denver puts up a little bit more fight. Hope that they continue to mix and match a bunch of different guys. That Peyton Watson plays a little bit more because he needs to play more. And that Denver finds more opportunities to be successful against a team that is pretty much infallible. So we'll see what they can do. We'll see whether they can challenge them. Denver's generally very good on the second night of back-to-backs. We'll see if that holds up. That is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, everybody. Brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline and SCL Mortgage. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed. I will be back again tomorrow recapping what happens tonight. The game is at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. It's on NBA TV, so we'll see if I can actually get it broadcasted on my TV. That's always a challenge when you're talking about NBA TV. So everybody make sure to check out your situation as well when it comes to being able to watch this game. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button on the way out. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.